In this tutorial we'll cover how to add local sources to a zone in a LAN. So the zone can be driven by, in this example it's going to be a Marantz SR7009, but it could be an ALS Oriel, a LAN SCD6 or any other audio zone controller available to the system. And when we say add local sources, in this scenario we will be adding the built-in preview and the built-in smart features from a Sony TV. It could also be that you've fitted something like a Roku or an Apple TV or a local Blu-ray player directly into the TV set. Now the first part of the scenario, we'll be using the internal sources, the Freeview and the smart functions, and we'll be combining those with the Marantz, but we'll be using the TV volume for the built-in sources. So when the user is using Blu-ray or Sonos or Apple TV or any other sources in the rack, they'll be using the Marantz cinema system, and when they're using the built-in functions of the TV set, they'll be using the TV speakers themselves. Show you a quick bit of setup with the TV. The TV has two sources. They both use the same layouts, but one is for Freeview and one is for the internal smart functions, i.e. YouTube, Netflix, things like that. So we've already got our zone set up here. We've got Sonos, Blu-ray, Sky, Roku and Apple all configured in. All nice and normal. We've got a living room zone assigned, we've got the living room Sony assigned to it. We've got our on and off and our input set, as if, all as if we normally would when we're setting a zone up. Now we're going to add in the local sources from this. In previous firmwares this would be done by adding a generic single zone controller, but in more recent firmwares there is a much handier built-in mechanism for dealing with local sources. First we go to the TV set and we use this new option here called Provide Local Sources. Now you may have spotted this is an IP driven Sony TV driver. The Provide Local Sources option and these other new options are available on all video display drivers, not just the new Sony IPs. So once we've clicked Provide Local Sources and we hit Apply, we go back to our zone. Now our zone was previously fully configured, and now what we'll see is that the two sources that are on the TV, the Freeview and the smart functions, are now available and are showing under the living room zone. That's because the system knows that the living room TV has local sources on offer, and it now allows you to combine them in a nice easy way without having to go through workaround generic single zone controllers. Now, the display on-off options, you'll notice, are not selectable. That's because these sources are connected directly to the TV, so the TV set has to be on. Equally with the display one input, because they've been connected here to TV and here to smart TV, there is no option to set the input because again, this is already being defined. This audio volume here, this refers to the Marantz living room zone. So when we're watching Freeview or smart TV, we would like the Marantz to switch off or mute. The next thing, one adjustment we need to make to this is where do we want the volume control for these two sources to come from? We want it to come from the living room Sony TV. So if we change both of those, so just right click, living room Sony TV. For this part of the scenario, that is complete. On the viewer now, the user will be able to see all of the sources available as if they're all in the one zone. Nice and easy. Certainly an awful lot quicker than it used to be. The next part of this guide is if we want to do exactly what we've done to date, but we now want to bring the audio back from the TV and actually have the audio coming through the Marantz speakers. Now obviously this will need to be cabled, so there'll need to be a link from the television set back to the AV receiver. But again, provided that link's there, there's a nice easy programming method for doing it. No workarounds involved, nice and simple. So I go back to my living room Sony TV. I now enable this Provide Audio Return. And that simply means that audio has been piped from the TV to wherever the Marantz AV receiver is, usually back in the rack. So there's a cable physically linking one to the other. From the TV point of view, that's us now done with the TV set. That's the setup complete. So if we go back to the living room zone, you can see nothing has changed here. Everything is still as it was. But we have this option available to us now, Audio Return Input. What that allows me to do, it shows me the available connections on the actual AV receiver. It doesn't show the ones that are already in use, so CD has been used by Sony or by Sonos, Blu-ray disc has been used by Blu-ray, and you can see they're not available in the list to select. So if I had taken, and this is my example setup, let's say a big long optical cable from the back of the TV set to the rack, and I connected it into TV, which is the optical input on the Marantz, I would then tell a LAN that the TV source on the Marantz now has the television connected to it, because that's our audio return input. And you can see there, it has audio return from zone and it's cut off, but that is this zone here. The only change we need to do now is we need to put the volume control back to being this zone, i.e. the Marantz, and this option we want don't change. So again, when the Marantz is now being used for volume, so when we are selecting Freeview and Smart TV, we don't want the mute to cut in, and we do want the Marantz to look after the volume control. Anyone that's done this before without using these features will realise there's a fair bit of programming involved, especially if you're looking at 4, 6, 8 zones all working the same way. I think you'll agree that this new method here, provide local sources, and then the extension of that, provide audio return, simplify this process immensely. And that's it for this tutorial.